Artist Journal, September 23rd, 2022, Berlin. My name is Adrian Pocobelli, your artist reporter, with our one-of-a-kind show. It feels like a one-of-a-kind show. I imagine there are something like this out there, but it's kind of interesting. So it's great to have you all on. I mean, it's 141 subscribers, so it's so small, and I am loving every minute of the smallness, but it is a great community. So let me actually very quickly, as I like to do, let me just touch on that quickly and give a shout out to Bubba, who has been watching every morning since episode 3. Great work, my friend. Well, thank you. Without viewers like you, we wouldn't be around. I mean, maybe I would have kept doing it. You know, I actually told a friend, even if there's 0 viewers, I'm doing this. So let's see. I don't know if I wouldn't do it, but it definitely encourages you, especially on day 50 or whatever it is here. Also here, very nice, another meta work by Minta. And so the program is starting to get meta. Everything is going meta. We see the program here, Artist Journal program it's all getting meta. So Purple Drank's image on Twitter has been rendered by another one-of-a-kind screenshot artist, Minta, who is a master of meta. So thank you, Minta. Available. She sent me one. You can still get them for 2. There have been sales. So let me look. Wow. Look at this. Look at this. So anyways, so thank you. I don't want to take too long on this. And also just in our quick notes here before we really get started, Purple Drank has another episode or another piece in his Savage Sword of Pepe series. Another awesome piece you can get on Manifold, Savage Sword 3, and just go here and connect your MetaMask and get your free token. And it is open to claim to anybody who's previously claimed piece 1 or 2. So let's get to the show. This work just kept on calling me this morning as I was kind of looking over everything. Maybe it's just really simple. Maybe it's kind of the Warhol evocation. Like it looks like, screen prints. This is by LB, by the way, and it is called Love in Frames. LB always has really good titles. I love a good title. Back in the day, I used to come up with titles first, and then I would try and make paintings, oil paintings that did justice to the titles. So I'm a big fan of titles. That I learned later, that's kind of a losing strategy because, you can spend a long time and it's much more difficult. Let's put it that way. Anyway, so awesome work by LB here with some roses. What I like about it is to me, it has Warhol written all over it, but without it being clearly Warhol. In the way that, he might screen print across the same image. Here we get 3 different roses. I just find this to be so beautiful, so simple, and in his LB's trademark style. So I decided to start with that. Edition of 10, only 2 are gone. I'm going to pick one up right away here. And this was also, Side Hustle is back. A really interesting Cube Houses series. Let me just bring up the, so there's 2 of them, both released yesterday. And I just thought they're really nice. I just think they're really interesting pixel works. I like series. I think my favorite part, ironically maybe, is the ground, where you see it's just these square cubes done as basically maybe lawn or whatever it is, sidewalk, whatever. And, I didn't even really notice it till now. And this is a bit of a stretch. And again, like the weird perspective, but it almost looks like a palazzo. Like if you go to Italy and you go to Florence or you go to Rome, maybe one of the weird things you learn about old palaces, old Renaissance palaces, is that they're kind of just these huge rectangles, these huge squares and rectangles. This looks like a palazzo. So who knows if that was what side hustle intended, but very cool. And another thing I want to point out, which is this very simple use of blue, red, and green, kind of this like almost like CMYK type RGB, red, green, blue, and white. And then, okay, that changes here, but very, again, kind of conceptually interesting. Like what that evokes for me very quickly is the Mona Lisa by Warhol. Let's see if we get the one, because it's actually so beautiful. And I didn't really notice this till kind of after admiring this piece for a long time. Do you notice CMYK? So conceptually interesting, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful work. And that actually goes with our LB really nicely, doesn't it? So, right, CMYK. And so again, little decisions like that rather than just any colors kind of makes things conceptually even more interesting. Let's look at the other one really quickly. So this was the first one of the cube houses. I didn't pick either of these up. I kind of wish I had. They're gone now. And you almost see like an old video game type bricks here. These are done on an old graphics program. So what is it? Graphics 2, it's called. So got back to these retro tools, which is almost a genre in itself. There's retro image iconography, which you'll see in like Adelia, like yesterday, with that alarm clock, digital alarm clock. But here we also have retro tools, which is a whole other thing. So also, just an interesting little development here. Myth put out this tweet, first experiment, Myth Labs, will there be merch? He's got the trademark green and pink, the Myth. So pretty interesting. And this is a tweet from a couple of days ago that I wanted to bring up that I thought was just really interesting from Joe Rogan's dad, which fits perfectly with the merch, which is the Myth is probably one of the greatest characters ever conceived on the blockchain. It is more than an idea, it is a brand. So 2 days later, we have, action. We have action on that. So very interesting. Jordy Ganduel is someone we haven't looked at. This was a new piece. Having issues with rendering here. Here we go. And so Jordy does kind of these cities I think are just worth touching on here. This was done in collaboration with Underground. I was on a Twitter Spaces last week. Who was it? Art to Act. I think they do a weekly Twitter Spaces because I saw them do another one, and Underground was on it. Seems like a nice team there, and they put out Underground membership drops, so kind of interesting. Here was another one. Let's see if it loads up nicely. So just kind of interesting works here. He's definitely got his style. Pretty cool. Summer's End, indeed. I miss summer enormously. It was one of the funnest summers I've ever had. And quick advice that I've learned this summer, the big takeaway, my girlfriend says, you keep saying this, but the key, I think, to having a great summer is to go away in May, late May, early June. So your summer starts early, go somewhere warm. We went to Spain. And I don't really have the cash because I'm buying too many Tezos NFTs, bought too many myths. But if I had cash, then I'd go away in October, and your summer gets stretched out like 6 months. So quick little tidbit, because it really elongated the summer in a way that I've never experienced. So go away early and go away late, and maybe you do something in between if you can afford all those vacations. In Europe, we can travel cheap here. Very interesting work here. A new artist I've never heard of before, Atelier 407. Let's just quickly look. So I almost want, like here you almost start to see a Louis Osborne kind of vibe. When did this come out? August 9th. So especially in this eye here, really nicely done here. Yeah, so again, like I always say, we're consuming more art than probably let me put it this way. We're consuming an astonishing amount of art on a daily basis here. So the influence is going back and forth. We're also going to see it later in the AI, how that is influencing. So all to say, I think it's all good. It's all good. And so Atelier 407, really nice piece. And I think just a nice, simple abstraction. And this doesn't remind me of Louis Osborne at all. So, totally their own thing. So $5.99, did it sell out? Yeah, it went for $3. Louis Osb, first buyer. So there you go. There you go. He approves. So anyway, just another guy to have on your radar. Pretty nice work, and still like relatively cheap for small editions. Pretty nice. You can put it in the same room, the museum in your mind. What else do we have here? A new work by Rivalski, Tezos, which I like to add because these psychedelic works, which is almost a genre unto itself, these are some of the first works I came across and started collecting when I got to Tezos. So I always kind of like to follow those people that I find early on. So Rivalski art, let's just quickly look. And yeah, you'll see kind of like this. Remember Zap Comics? Probably Bubba Boo might remember from a previous episode. We looked at Zap Comics, and this has kind of Zap Comics written all over it. Which is an underground comic from the 1960s. Robert Crum, probably easily the most famous underground comics artist, COMIX, underground comics artist, was a major player. This is kind of interesting too. This is by Daniel W., who put out a great mushroom series of prints. And he put out this one yesterday, and I saw two things when I saw this. First, I saw that Goya, right, with Saturn devouring his son, which I looked up here before I started. That's how I knew the title right off the top of my head. So there was that. And then I thought of this kind of looks like maybe it's hell. And in Dante's Inferno, at the end, when you meet Satan, he's three-faced. He has three faces, which is kind of interesting. You may not know that. And I saw the three faces here and kind of what looks like a hellish landscape. So let's look at the title. To Face the Beast. And the beast, of course, is another word for the devil. Oh, what a marvel it appeared to me when I beheld three faces on his head. That is Dante. I didn't see that, but I'll show you. So first of all, we have William Blake depicting Dante's Satan, which I brought up here. So the three heads, very similar. Look, see the wings and the three heads? The wings and the three heads, and look, even devouring. So maybe this isn't so much like the Goya, which I brought up here, of Saturn devouring his sons. This is a play on William Blake, who is doing a play off of Dante. So this episode, I think, clearly is about influence. T.S. Eliot wrote an essay about the anxiety of influence. And when you're an artist, and he was a poet, of course, but when you're an artist, you're always kind of struggling between your influences and your originality and where these two things meet. Now, another take on this is I love it when I see influence, particularly from the tradition. As I said in that interview with Culture 3 and Georgie Miller, to be a part of the tradition, in my view, you kind of have to have a conversation with the tradition. So when newer works reference older works, and here we're getting, Daniel W. is referencing, I would say, probably Blake and Dante, and then Blake is, doing a image of Dante. You start to me, that starts to be like, and I don't want to overstate this whole museum work thing, but then it's like, nobody can kind of mess with you when you start doing that. Like, people can say what they want, but it's kind of like you're having a conversation with the tradition, and nobody can take that away from you. Okay? Like, it's kind of a way of insulating yourself somewhat from, it's not that people can't criticize you. They can still say, oh, good or bad. But that's, it really helps kind of give you credibility. And people can make fun of you all they want, but you have that credibility of being a part and kind of referencing the tradition. So even if the world forgets about you and ignores you 200 years from now, someone's going to look at that Daniel W. and go, oh, that's kind of like Blake's so-and-so, and it becomes important. It gives it credibility, I would argue. Feel free to disagree. Leave a comment under the video. So continuing on, I just want to remember WOC of the dollar bill. No Photoshop. So I'm not sure These might be done with just spray paint. These may be actually, his NFTs may be actually just be photos of physical works. And it's interesting, that ambiguity. But it seems so amazing. Is this no Photoshop? Because that really looks like a digital work. WOC might be doing both, which I would find incredibly interesting. Because then I think he might be doing both. That is interesting. So just kind of tackling the same problem from a digital angle and a physical angle. So anyways, I just saw this tweet here and I thought, oh, because I was saying, oh, is that just the Gaussian blur? New work by Dan Control, Dan CTRL, a controller. And this is Joypad. I used to play that console a lot. Along with that, now this Joypad is for sure a rare relic. So edition of 10. Not many left, about 3 left, I think. So these are going fast. And a new work by Slava Angle, Damaged Broadcast. Let me just maximize this. Yeah, I think we've touched on his work before. And I always like touching on his work because, I mean, it's kind of like this on and off, like 1-bit kind of bitmap kind of work with kind of maybe a retro screen filter, for lack of a better term. And I like these kind of like, you see the floor here turn into a grid. Here we go, right? And so I brought up a couple other works. I'm pretty sure actually I brought up this work before. This is one of my all-time favorite NFTs. If I had like one show and it was just going to be showing a whole bunch of NFTs, this one's really cool. Like, I just love it. I just think it's so cool. So I always like to, I think I've shown it before, show it again. Yeah, one of my favorites. And here are just a couple others. I don't think we looked at these. So just a couple of retro computers. See, 1-bit zone. And it uses other old technology like this microscope here, combining with plants. So again, just very cool. Another old computer. Looks like an old Commodore 64, 1-bit zone, 3.5-inch discs at the bottom here, old remote control, again with a plant, and then some sort of skull in there. Grid in the background, just really cool work. And this was, I wish I'd picked this up when it was cheap. I could have. Just kind of another cool work. Open a door to information. Let's look at the title on that. Entrance door. Come in, you are expected. Okay, moving on. Back to Joe Rogan's dad. Joaquin Linquiman did a tribute to the great collector and artist Joe Rogan's dad. Really nice. Looks like a collage of some kind. Really nice. I think this is just a great work. I believe it's a 1 of 1, and it went to Joe Rogan's dad, and straight to the basement with that one. Really nice piece. And Joe Rogan's dad did a piece, and we're back to the anxiety of influence, right? Because when I see this, I think, oh, strange thing. But I mean, I don't think people shouldn't do that. And who knows? This might just be the software, right? I haven't cracked the code yet. Like, in a sense, I'm still trying to kind of get these things going, but I've just been using, what is it called? The Discord bot. I was using it last night. I went for a beer and visited my friend who runs a bar in Mitte, Zed Bar, if you're ever in Berlin, Konstantin. And, he's working, so half the time I was using Midjourney and just trying to crack the code, but I'm going to try DALL-E this weekend. So anyways, cool work. You see Mike Tyson, sleight of hand. It looks like the Mike Tyson tattoo that you'd see in The Myth. A lot of symbolism going on. So edition of 1, 50 Tez. Another Wasteman Goldminovich. So again, we see in the style of Strange Thing. For those who haven't seen Strange Thing, I brought it up. And I'll go back to Wasteman's work in a second here. Some people were saying that they were actually getting rid of this piece because too many notifications. I'd say just send it to another wallet. If I would send it to a second wallet because, yeah, we're getting a ton of notifications. For me, it's not the end of the world, but I understand. I'll probably send it to another wallet. So that's just a really easy solution. Then you don't need to worry about it. You should probably have 2 or 3 wallets anyway. So you see the influence here, I would say, of Strange Thing again, but really interesting to see how other people kind of work their way into AI Because I have to admit, I was trying to do the same thing. I'm like, Vermeer, Nike guy, with nothing close to those results. I'm going to try DALL-E 2, though. So I'm curious if I can start to hack that a little bit. But look at the masterpiece continues to be the masterpiece here. So let's see. A couple other, just quickly, 0009, doing a couple other AI works. And what is this called? Missed Connection. Again, there's almost like this archetypal feel to 0009's work of like this blobby thing kind of taking over a city. It's got that kind of sci-fi, or, when the earth freezing over. Here's another one, 0009 at 1. Again, pretty strong market. Accepts offer for 20, so very strong market for these. Blob, for lack of a better term, blob works. It's called Defaced, the series here. And you can see others as well. Wow, 500 is what that's selling for, 64. Another, what I suspect is AI, another, very nice work by Hannibal. What is the name of this? The Anonymous Performance Artist. So this is great. Again, I want to call it in this German expressionist style. Again, this is reflecting the art on itself. And this is, again, what I want to see in like physical contemporary art galleries. And I'd go, oh, okay, like that's pretty exciting. And nothing against them. And I find nice works in contemporary art galleries all the time. I'm just saying, like, this is competing quite healthily. And finally, just a thank you. I finally put one up for sale here of the 8 Badu works. And thank you for all the retweets, actually, on my super rare work. I finally minted. Quick thing on that. That was $9. That was $9. Now, it wasn't at the quiet time, but I was thinking this is going to be like 50 cents with the new Ethereum. It was still $9 to mint on super rare. So I would say like Tezos, even Phantom, you're not out of the running yet by any stretch from a blockchain perspective, from a tech perspective. So anyways, thank you, Polly Jojo, who has been a bit of a patron here. So thank you, Polly Jojo, for picking one up. And this anonymous collector here, thank you for picking up Sunset. I might burn some. So let's see. I just thought I'd see how these did. I'm very proud of this. And I think that's it. So until next time, thanks for joining me. Until next time, take care.